Is a powerful thing. Our next guest, harmonica player Mike Stevens, takes his gift to some pretty remote places, and he's changing lives in the process.
I have this theory about music is that it's made up of all these parts of your life. So everything that you go through, if you play from your heart, it comes through and other people feel it.
Life as a professional harmonica player has taken Mike Stevens down back roads and highways around the world, from Tennessee to Tokyo. But the detour Mike took a couple of years ago has changed his direction for good. Where would you place yourself as a musician before you took the trip that would change your life?
But I was pretty comfortable. All of the dreams that I had were pretty much realized. It just all fell together, and it's been incredible.
Like a lot of kids growing up in Sarnia, Ontario, Mike wound up working in a petrochemical plant. But he chased his dream to be a full-time musician whenever he didn't have a shift at the refinery. Mike began to make a name for himself on weekends, playing bluegrass harmonica all over North America. Come Monday, he'd be back at his regular day job.
You know, I'd be at the tool crib at work, and somebody'd say, "I saw you with Dolly Parton on TV." And you'd look to see if your foreman was around, you know?
His unusual playing style caught the attention of country music legends Jim and Jesse McReynolds, and they asked him to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, hallowed ground for country and bluegrass players.
All I wanted to do was play and not screw up. I thought, if I can play and not screw up and not say the wrong thing or do something really stupid, then maybe I'll get invited back.
How many times did you play the Grand Ole Opry?
I think around 300 times.
Wow.
I mean, who could dream hanging off a tower at a petrochemical plant one minute and playing on the Grand Ole Opry the next with a harmonica? You know, like who would ever in a million years think that could happen?
Finally, in 1995, Mike quit his plant job to play music full-time.
Go for it. Die.
Run.
Between exhausting road trips, he savored every spare minute with his wife Jane and their son Colin.
I sort of make time to be there at meals and to hang around and have as normal a life as I can.
When Mike went on tour in November of 2000, he thought he was off on just another typical road trip. With a group of musicians, Mike headed to Bosnia to play for Canadian troops. The first stop was Goose Bay, Labrador. That's just down the highway from the troubled native community of Sheshatshiu. The village was in the news across Canada because of the staggering rates of gas sniffing and suicides among the children there. When he got an offer from a journalist to visit the people of Sheshatshiu, Mike decided he'd go.
So we start the drive out to Sheshatshiu, and we're talking small talk, and I'm nervous and not knowing where I'm going really and what's going to happen. And we crested the top of the hill and looked down over Sheshatshiu, and it felt like I just drove right off the edge of Canada.
What did you see?
Well, you'd see little houses. You'd see one bulldozed over where kids were sniffing gas, and some had spilled, and a family had burned to death. And I'm thinking, wow. And at this point, I felt useless, and I felt disgusted, and I felt a bunch of things, because here's this spoiled musician, right, traveling around being looked after, and this stuff is real, and it's right outside your door. So anyways, we drove around, and I felt like I had to do something, so we went to the school, and I ended up playing for all the kids, and realizing that they're just normal kids that are bored.
And troubled.
Yeah, in trouble. And when we got to the lake, there was a row of maybe 8 kids beside a roaring fire. And at this point, I was scared. I thought about it for a minute and then just decided, well, I play the harmonica, I'll go play the harmonica. I'll show you. They're just a bigger, deeper, like. And and they started requesting stuff, and I just started playing along. If they wanted me to stand on my head and clap my feet together, I would have done it, because at that point it was about making a connection and just showing that you cared.
You got music in you. You really do.
Can you even begin to tell me where your heart was as that day unfolded?
I was thinking that that this is what music's really for. I was thinking that my whole life of being a musician just happened. Like, that's what it's for, you know? Now, every time I play Amazing Grace, I cannot get the image of these kids in a semicircle with bags of gas and the fire beside them. I can't get it out of my head. It's like part of my DNA.
By the time Mike got back home to Sarnia, his visit to Sheshatshiu was in the media spotlight.
Well, I couldn't turn my back on it. It just was so obvious that I would regret it for the rest of my life if I actually had a voice at making a difference in this situation and went back to being a musician and said, nah, forget it. I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
All right, go ahead.
I thought I'll collect all these instruments.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. Hi,
And I'll start an instrument library.
The guitar we talked about?
So I'd filled 3/4 of a transport load full of instruments and got a trucking company to drive them up to Sheshatshiu.
So what was the reaction?
It was great. We had, like, at times 80 kids in a room with all
Wow.
these instruments running wild and trying to teach them and teaching them how to play.
Got a good grip on that, Colin?
Yep.
But that was just the beginning.
Gonna serenade me on the way back?
What does that mean?
Since then, Mike has collected instruments from all over Canada, and he's delivered them to hundreds of kids in remote Native communities. This next load of instruments will soon be put in the hands of children in Mishkigogama, a reserve in northern Ontario. Getting a trip organized takes up most of the time Mike used to spend practicing harmonica. These days, 2 non-profit groups lend a hand, but there's a lot to do. Mike is still the man behind this mission.
It's not even a conscious thing. Like, I didn't sit down and write a plan. I mean, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. All this stuff has just been, like, making it up as I go along, you know? But it's loping along, you know?
Stay with us. Next, Mike takes his music to Mishkigogama and brings hope to the children of that northern community. It is a long